third time we had him on the Observer. Anyhow, he's no stranger. Please let me say a pleasant good evening to Minister of Defense, Wayne Sturge. Pleasant good evening.
Good evening, Mikey.
Yeah, it's been quite a weekend. Now, people have been seeing so much going on, so much being bandied about. Do we run to the supermarket? Do we panic buy? Do we get scared? I mean, I think you know exactly where I'm coming from.
Yep.
The Minister of Homeland Security made it quite clear there's no need to panic. He said that warning citizens that came out from the U.S. Embassy is basically something that we know by now happens, especially perhaps on a long weekend, as the case may be. Please expand on this. Where are we at?
Well, the intel in the possession of the U.S. Embassy and their officials does not suggest that we are a target or that the Trinidadian citizens need be concerned at all. Now, it's a threat. It's not a code red, but what we know is that it is directed potentially at U.S. officials in particular and U.S. installations. And because it's directed at U.S. officials, there's always a possibility that it can extend to U.S. citizens. But that's the intel. There's nothing at all to suggest that we as a country are being targeted, and it is it's not anything like we are going to get nuked or a bomb is going to drop on us. Nothing like that. It is very specific to U.S. personnel.
Yeah, and I think there's a fear when people start to read into things as far as the Prime Minister and the Attorney General to be moved to safe houses, identified for them. These plans were discussed over a week ago. I mean, there's one thing to be mischievous. I mean, we understand that we live now with so many different social platforms that news, of course, comes out that we have to check and double check. As we say here in Trinidad, we have to pick sense from nonsense. But at the end of it all, I mean, this is something that we're not really accustomed to, where someone could just simply put out this information and directly say that, the heads of state is out of the country and the Prime Minister and the Attorney General will be put in a safe house. I mean, what is really happening here?
Well, first things first, I understand it's coming from one news source in particular, and that news source has been exposed by a court judgment, and up to Friday in Parliament has been exposed as a source of serious propaganda and unreliability. So that is not a credible news source. Of course, she might have her following, and those who don't know better might rely on it. But if you have an ounce of common sense, you'd know first of all that is first of all, the source is not credible. Second, ask yourself, where did she get that information from? And third, who would be privy to that information that would disseminate something like that? So all of the online things that you see, you have to pick sense from nonsense. And some people, it's a hit and miss a lot of the times. They might hope or expect that this is what is going to take place, and if they say it first and it happens, then they'll say, we said it first, we said it before anybody else. Yeah, and that's a tactic to enhance. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, perhaps they enhance their platform or as far as their base goes. But at the same time, we're talking about creating social disorder. We're talking about, there are people who may not be tech savvy, perhaps in the older generation, and just hearing these things, no telling what could happen. I mean, someone could basically fall into illness or I mean, there's one thing, as I said, where mischief is concerned. You're looking for likes. You're creating mischief. But when you're actually putting this information out there and being specific about it, there has to be a line that is crossed at some point.
Well, I believe, to my mind, that has been crossed a long time ago. It's up to the authorities to look at it to see what might border on seditious behavior, whether any offense has been committed. And in essence, you're inciting a panic. That in itself is something that has to be looked at. And off the top of my head, it's inciting panic or anything like that. That's not necessarily a criminal offense in terms of laws. But there must be something at common law that can deal with this sort of thing. And if there isn't, I advocate for the future. And I can imagine from now people jumping out and saying, you're trying to limit freedom of speech. It's not limiting freedom of speech. With that freedom of speech is not an absolute right. With that freedom comes responsibility. And that's why people should take their news and their information from credible platforms who are credible because there are checks and balances against the information. Not platforms which have a history of sharing political propaganda and misinformation. But I hear what you say, and I agree that many people may not be A, tech savvy, or B, discerning enough to know that this ought not to be relied upon, because some people feel that everything that you see on the internet is true. Yeah. It's not. And that's why you have to rely on official channels. The Attorney General and the Minister of Homeland Security came out early yesterday morning and indicated what the state of affairs was. And if there's a change to the state of affairs, just like they did very early yesterday morning, we will at some point come out and address the nation and say this is what the state of affairs are at any point in time.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And I'm glad you cleared that up. I also want to commend you for the fact that, looking at laws going forward, because I would hate to think that this would be the modus operandi of a certain individual for the next 4.5 or 5 years, trying basically to have some sort of social destabilizing of activities taking place. And really and truly, I don't think that many of us as citizens can go through that. We need to know the information, and I think you made it quite clear as well that if there was something, we would have been, of course, briefed on it by the authorities.
Yes, and to in essence debunk, and this should be enough to tell you that you should not be listening to news source and other such propaganda machines. The fact that it was being spread on social media by a number of platforms, that the U.S. personnel had been shipped out, and that the Prime Minister and the Attorney General and Her Excellency the President, that they've been shipped out. But yesterday, they all had dinner, minus Her Excellency. Right. They all had dinner at the Prime Minister's residence in South. So that is enough to tell you that what you read earlier was absolute rubbish.
Thank you.
So let me just say, I mean, in times of war, some things happen and some things have to be done expeditiously. If there's a need for any such movement to take place, then all will be informed. Right. But and informed in a very timely manner. We are not going to have information, sit on it, and expose the citizenry to harm. If there's any possibility that there's going to be a strike and a retaliation, and we are seized of that information, then we will disseminate it, and we'll disseminate it together with the relevant plans that are in essence put in place for times like these if they happen to roll out. So if there's need to seek shelter to avoid the roads, to not crowd, to stock up and things like that, we'll do it in an orderly fashion. There's no need to panic.
All right.
So
Minister, I think you said it all. I mean, thank you so much. I mean, and I'm sure you were bombarded by a lot of calls and people asking you what's going on, what's happening, are we expecting something to take place? And it wasn't easy. And I think, again, the senior citizens too, because many reached out, many of them look at my program, and they were quite concerned, they were very worried. So I want to thank you so much for taking time out and clearing up this issue, giving us some clarity on it. Any closing comments? Go right ahead.
well, the closing comments, first of all, if there's any change, if something, if we are seized, and that's what I want to say, if we are seized of information that things are about to happen next door, then obviously, if there's at all a chance of a reprisal, and let me make it clear, there are no warships in our waters, there are no destroyers in our waters, there are no F-35s or Black Hawk helicopters or anything like that in our airspace. So that there's nothing being launched from here. So there's no need for Venezuela to target us as a reprisal. All we've simply said, we've backed up the position that what is happening on international waters between the U.S. and who the U.S. deemed to be a narco state, that's an issue between the U.S. and that state. And it's happening not in our territorial waters or airspace. Of course, we agree in essence that if people are in essence trafficking that volume of drugs and firearms and so on, and it has been the case over the years that when it gets here, there's a multiplier effect in terms of the murders, whether it's guarding to double crossing or somebody losing money out of a deal, and the end result is destruction. So we are not a zone of peace. We are a zone of war, where the narco traffickers basically bring war to our territory, and the war has resulted in the murder rate skyrocketing from about 20 years ago. It was at one point murders would always be under 100, and it cost 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, now 600. Most of it is gang related. Most of it is gang related as a result of drugs and guns. And where are these things coming from? It's coming from next door. So this is not a zone of peace. This is a place, Trinidad is the stomping ground for internecine warfare between warring gangs over drugs. So if what is happening, what the U.S. is doing out there, taking out narco traffickers who they deem terrorists in their law, if that results in a serious reduction in drugs and guns coming to our country, and as a consequence, a serious reduction in violent crime and murders, then we welcome it. We could never say that's not a good thing. And we are not feeling sorry for those who when they are bringing their drugs and guns, that they are intercepted and die at the hands of an airstrike. Yes, generally, if it's in our territorial waters, then they'll be afforded due process. But if it's in international waters and there's a fight between one country deeming the other narco terrorists because they are trafficking certain things, then that's a fight.
Yeah.
But again, it redounds to our benefit. And because it redounds to our benefit, that doesn't mean we are involved in anything in any war. But to make it very clear, there's very little likelihood of the Venezuelans attacking us because nothing is being launched from here.
So true. All right. I think that says it all. Thank you
Yes.
so much for taking time out again. Keep up the good work, and we'll be checking in with you periodically.
Appreciate it.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much.
The Observer.